go with just, I'm going to get you. It's, I'm going to get you and everybody of your race. I'm going with ethnic cleansing over this, all right? So Haman is pretty dedicated in this. He's pretty intent. But what does it say? What does he use to decide when to attack? When to do this? Oh no, I know her name. The smallest Stutzman girl. Misa, that's it. They cast lots. It said they cast lots. They used the original, I think they used the Persian word per and then translated it and said, which means they cast lots. Now, I had to read this a couple of times and go around in circles about it because it felt like he spent an entire year every day casting lots to see if this was the day. And as you actually find out later, basically what happened is they started and they're like, all right, January 1, cast the lots. Nope, not that day. All right, January 2, cast the lots. Nope, that's another no. January 3. Can you imagine starting at January 1st and it takes you until which month did they decide is when they're going to do this? Which month? Silas, the 12th month. 330 times later, they finally land on, okay, the 12th month is the month. So they're using it now. For them, they're not Christians. Obviously, they're wanting to go destroy the Jews. So here they are, and they need a way to pick, so they're doing it their way. They're using chance, games of chance, whether it was casting dice or picking boards or sticks, or there's a variety of ways that casting lots was done, but it was some way to pick that left it to what we would call chance. There was no set pattern there. So, let's see. So that's how he decided. Oh, and we already asked, which month did he decide? He picked the 12th month. He decided, Silas already got to answer that one. So, here it is. All right. They've got a year out that they're going to do this. Or almost a year. 11 months. 11 months from now, they're going to have an ethnic cleansing. And they've picked their dates. So, what are we going to do then? Well, let's read verse 8 and 9. Then Haman, because he hasn't even talked to the king about this yet. Then Haman said to King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of every other people. They do not keep the king's laws, so that it is not to the king's profit to tolerate them. If it please the king, let it be decreed that they be destroyed. And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who have charge of the king's business, that they may put it into the king's treasuries. All right, so, does Haman, when he takes this situation to the king, does Haman tell the king the name of the people he's targeting? Kayla, no, he does not. There we go. He doesn't tell him the name. He just says, well, there's this certain people. All right, he kind of keeps that a little vague. What does Haman say these Jews do not keep? What does he say they're not obeying? Mimi. Yeah, that's Mimi. Wait, that's Mimi. That's Misa. Misa, you got older. Okay. You're still growing. Go ahead, Misa. They're not keeping the laws, he says. Seriously, you look a lot older than you did earlier. I don't know. Just 5 minutes ago, she was a smaller kid. I don't know what happened there, but all of a sudden she looked like her sister. Okay. So, he says these Jews have their own law. They don't keep your law. Now, question. Did the Jews have their own law? Sam? Yes. Were they still obeying the law of the Persian empire, though? Samuel, do you know? How about yes? Say yes. Yes, they were keeping the law of the Persian Empire. Oh, and then I totally missed. So they were. They are. I mean, we're reading about them on Sunday mornings. We're studying them on Sunday mornings. They are going about. They're obeying the king. They're paying their taxes. They're doing what they need to, and they're obeying. But Haman says, "Oh, they have their own law. You know they're ignoring yours. They have a totally different law from everybody else." What does Haman want the king to do? What does he ask the king to do? Maisie? Say again. Yes, he says, make a decree that they be destroyed. He's not saying throw them out. He's not saying make them slaves. He says make them dead. Let's genocide. Let's wipe out this whole group of people. Now, what does Haman offer to give the king? This is a bit of an odd one. What does he offer? Isabella, do you have that? No. What? No, she did. She was doing something else. All right. Zaya Bender. Sorry? 10,000 talents of silver. Very good. Man, Kevin just sits there so calm and cool. I can handle this. It's okay if I get hit in the head with a starburst. Okay. Nick. This is roughly 50 years. This is a ways down the road. The events in Esther, because remember, on Sunday mornings, we're Darius, okay? And we're only in the second year of Darius. Darius still has a pretty long run. And then I think there's somebody else, and then Ahasuerus. Don't quote me on that because I'm not looking at my timeline right now. But this is many years down the road from Darius. Okay? Except he didn't say harm the Jews. He said harm this temple. He pronounced a curse on destroying that temple. That was actually his specific curse. Interesting little loophole. Interesting to point that out, though. Darius had defended them and pronounced a curse on anyone trying to destroy the temple that they're rebuilding. But here, and I guess, I mean, in our normal thinking, we would think that would apply to the Jews. But this is much further down the road. Obviously, the political climate has shifted some. So, all right. But he offers 10,000 talents of silver. Now, this seems very odd, and honestly, by rough translations, you're talking multiple millions of dollars. He is talking massive amounts of money he's offering. Why would he be offering that? Because if you wipe out that many people out of the kingdom, guess what? You're going to affect the tax revenue. And he's saying, King, if you're worried about the taxes, I'll cover it, man. I will give you 10,000 talents of silver if you will make a decree to wipe these people out. Okay? And again, it's a ridiculous, crazy amount of money. But again, think about it. This is the number 2 man of the Persian Empire. This is not some low-level bureaucrat. This is not just Joe Schmo on the side of the road. This is second in command of the entire Persian Empire. Guess what? He's got some money and power. And he says, King, I'll give you 10,000 talents. I will pay a 10,000 talent tax to cover their taxes that you're going to lose. But let me wipe them out. Now, do you think King Ahasuerus is going to go for it. You think it's a good deal, Silas? Oh, Silas says no. Sam? Greed. Oh, Sam goes with greed. Interesting. All right. Noah. I knew you had a name. Huh? It's debatable? It's debatable. All right. Zach? Maybe. All right. Samuel, what do you think? No? You don't think he's going to go for it? All right. Well, let's read and see what he does. Verse 10. I got to get there. All right. So the king took off his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, the Agagite, the son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews. And the king said to Haman, the money is given to you, the people also, to do with them as it seems good to you. Then the king's scribes were summoned on the 13th day of the first month, and an edict, according to all that Haman commanded, was written to the king's satraps, and to the governors over all the provinces, and to the officials of all the peoples, to every province in its own script, and every people in its own language. It was written in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed with the king's signet ring. So what is it that the king gives to Haman? Isabella? His signet ring. It is his official stamp that says, I approve this ad, okay? It is his official signet ring. He gives it to Haman. Now, what does the decree say they're going to do with the Jews? Oh, goodness. Silas. Kill them all. Destroy. Huh? I didn't read far enough. Really? I didn't read 13. Why didn't I read 13? Letters were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces with instructions to destroy, to kill, to annihilate all Jews, young and old, women and children, in one day, the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. Well, it helps if I read the whole passage, doesn't it? All right, because I was thinking about that. I'm like, hey, did I read that? Okay. All right, so he says, kill them, annihilate them, destroy them, plunder all their goods, get rid of them. So now remember, the Jews have been part of the Persian Empire. Everybody has always hated the Jews. Nobody likes them. Everybody's irritated with them. And now they get a decree from the king that says, you got a Jewish neighbor you don't like? No problem. 13th of December, go kill them. Kill them, take all their stuff, you're good to go. Wow. I was living in a country when the current president at the time said on national TV, if you know a drug dealer, go kill him. It got kind of interesting in the Philippines for a while because there was a whole lot of, I've really not liked that guy for a long time. He must be a drug dealer. Bang. Oh, he was a drug dealer. It's okay. It got really interesting. Giving the people of the people under you the authority to just go kill people is a bit of a dangerous step. All right? Philippines learned that one. I missed one of those executions by 15 minutes. I got to the market and the cops are all there and there's a dead person. And it's like, oh, hey, yeah, they said he was a drug dealer and shot him. Anyhow, then they had mass surrenders of drug dealers turning themselves into the police for protection. It was a fascinating, okay, this is not the time for that. Okay, I'm getting way off track. Okay, so the king gives Haman his ring. What does the decree say? Kill them all. What day is proclaimed as the day to do that? I've already said it once, but maybe you missed it. Oh, my goodness, I see Haley's hand up. We'll let her answer one. 13th day of the 12th month. calendar doesn't exactly line up with ours, so it's not really December 12th. I just said that. You had a question, Kevin? Everybody's always disliked the Jews. They prosper in all that they do normally, and so that normally creates a lot of ill will towards them. They did have their own laws, and they did operate differently, and they just never, I guess, blended in well. I mean, although they had been dispersed, and eventually they end up influenced by the Greeks, but for the most part, they always just disliked the Jews. It was one of those strange things. Generally, if you get blessed, somebody's going to be unhappy about it. So. Mm-hmm.
And those people were all, I think it was Samuel that killed the king of Agag.
Okay.
And maybe that is.
Okay. There are some that believe Haman the Agagite is tied back to the Amalekite king Agag, but they've never found any historical proof of that. The prevailing theory with that name is that it was a local region that everybody was familiar with, because Agagite doesn't fit anywhere else, and Samuel wiped out King Agag, and theoretically at that point they wiped out that entire line and that whole city. Agag was supposed to be the only one left alive. So there's pretty thin ground. I get what you're saying, and a lot of people think that, but everything I researched said there wasn't historical proof of that. Mr. Fred. Yes, people are against Jews who don't even know Jews. Very true. Sam? They had nowhere to go. The Persian Empire was everything. There was nowhere else to go. It was just kind of, you're stuck here. Where else do you go? Yeah, Okay, so they picked their 12th month, 13th day to have this slaughter. All right, let's keep moving. Esther chapter 3. I'm going to try and read all of the verses this time. Verse 14 and 15. A copy of the document was issued as a decree. A copy of the document was to be issued as a decree in every province by the proclamation to all the peoples to be ready for that day. The couriers went out hurriedly by order of the king, and the decree was issued in Susa, the citadel, and the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa was thrown into confusion. All right? Who received copies of the decree? All right, Mo, again. Every province. Pretty much everybody got a copy of this. I am way off there. All right. Everybody gets a copy of this decree. What does it say the king and Haman did? All right, Muggsy. Sure. They drank. Sorry, I didn't catch what you said. Yes, they sat down and had a drink. They just chilled. They're like, yeah, all right, we've passed a decree to cause genocide. We'll just sit back and relax. Sounds like a good plan. Okay. What does it do to the city? Specifically, it mentions of Susa. What does it do in these cities? What'd you say, Charlie? Cause confusion. Just a complete confusion and chaos. And wait a second. In 11 months, we're going to kill these people, because some of them were hated. Not all of the Persians hated the Jews. They worked with them. They knew them. They traded with them. And now we're being told, the government says, kill you all on this certain day. Has to create a lot of chaos. Now, and of course, the Jews themselves are really unhappy about this. I mean, you've just been told in 11 months, everybody in the kingdom is required to come and wipe you out. So you have a lot of fear and concern going on. Let's pick up in chapter 4. Chapter 4, verse 1. When Mordecai learned all that had been done, Mordecai tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out into the midst of the city. He cried out with a loud and bitter cry. He went up to the entrance of the king's gate, for no one was allowed to enter the king's gate clothed in sackcloth. And in every province, wherever the king's command and his decree reached, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting and weeping and lamenting, and many of them lay in sackcloth and ashes. Redundant question. How does Mordecai feel about this? How's Mordecai handling this? Okay, wow, really? Okay, Isaiah. Huh? Terrible. He's weeping, mourning, lamenting, feeling awful. Sackcloth and ashes, the whole deal, going through the city, wailing and making his feelings known. Now, where does Mordecai go? It says he went somewhere specific. Where does he go? Isabella? To the king's gate. Now, he couldn't go in the gate because it says no one in sackcloth was allowed in through the king's gate. Okay? So again, it's one of those, we can only have happy people around the king in the palace. We can't have any people mourning and weeping and wailing and making a commotion in the palace. But, if you're stuck outside, well, you're stuck outside. So, and the Jews, what are the Jews doing? There's a couple of interesting things that it says they're doing. What are they doing? Maisie? Okay, they're fasting. They're in sackcloth and ashes. All of these are signs of mourning, including the fasting. What are they doing? They are seeking God. We have an impending catastrophe. What are they going to do? Are they going to arm up, or are they going to turn to God? The Jews made the right choice. They turned to God. I would venture to say there is not absolute, but with the mourning, the weeping, the sackcloth and ashes, you see, and the fasting. With fasting, there has to have been some form of repentance from sin, some cleansing, I'm going to be right with God. I'm going to get this right, and I'm going to be praying for deliverance. So, let's see how it all plays out. Chapter 4, verse 4. Well, we've got Mordecai outside the king's gate. Now let's see what happens. When Esther's young women and her eunuchs came and told her, the queen was deeply distressed. She sent garments to clothe Mordecai so that he might take off his sackcloth, but he would not accept them. Then Esther called for Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs, who had been appointed to attend her, and ordered him to go to Mordecai and learn what this was and why it was. Hathach went out to Mordecai in the open square of the city in front of the king's gate, and Mordecai told him all that had happened to him, and the exact sum of money that Haman had promised to pay into the king's treasury for the destruction of the Jews. Mordecai also gave him a copy of the written decree issued in Susa for their destruction, that he might show it to Esther and explain it to her, and command her to go to the king and beg his favor and plead with him on behalf of her people. And Hathach went and told Esther what Mordecai had said. All right. What does Esther first send out to Mordecai? Sophia. Clothes. She says, hey, man, put on some real clothes so you can come in and talk to me here and see what's going on. Does Mordecai accept the clothes she sent out to him? Silas? No, he does not. He says, nope, I'm not doing it. I am going to continue in sackcloth and ashes. I'm going to continue mourning. All right. So what does Esther send the second time? Isabella? You don't have to give me the name. What was his position? There you go, Hathach. She sends out a person. She sends out a messenger. Where have we heard about messengers recently? Maybe Sunday school. All right, so if you heard Sunday school this morning, you heard about messengers this morning. All right, we talked about messengers. Well, she sends a messenger out to Mordecai. Now, what is it when the messenger gets out there? Mordecai explains the situation. What is it that Mordecai wants Esther to do? What does he want her to do? All right, Mo, you're the only one. Go to the king and there you go. Go to the king and try and talk him out of it. See if you can convince him to not destroy all the people. Do you think the queen in all of her queenly power can talk him out of it? Mike, what do you think? It works out. All right. All right. Samuel, little Samuel, what do you think? Yes, he thinks she can do it. Silas? What? That's where we're, somebody noticed that's where we're stopping. So we'll have to come back next week and find out. What, Sam? Huh? There you go. All right. All right. So next week we'll pick that up. Now, the king has, listen, remember, the king has control over a huge empire. He has great power, and because of that, he has great responsibility. Now, before you go and accuse me of quoting Spider-Man, okay, I'm not. If you look at Luke chapter 12, verse 48, God said it long before Peter Parker did. Luke 12, 48b, everyone to whom much was given, of him much will be required. And from him to whom they entrusted much, they will demand the more. Interesting thing about this, when I look at Ahasuerus and I think about Ahasuerus in this situation, I am blown away. I understand Haman was his second in command. Probably considered him a friend. And yet, he says, oh, you want to commit genocide against some random people group? Okay, here's my ring. Go for it, dude. I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm not going to investigate. I'll get to you in a minute, guys. He just hands it over and lets him do whatever he wants to do. He just doesn't take responsibility. Charlie? Exactly. He didn't. He's just like, yeah, sure, go ahead. He didn't. He had an entire empire, and he didn't take that responsibility, honestly, as seriously as he should have. So just something as we think about this, as we find ourselves in positions where we're in charge of something, how seriously we're going to take it. When God gives us a talent, a skill, an ability, what are we going to do with it? How are we going to use that? Are we going to act like Ahasuerus and go, yeah, okay, dude, whatever. It's not that important. Just go do what you want to. Or are we going to take responsibility for that and use that for God and for doing things God's way? And I understand the Persian king Ahasuerus, he wasn't a Christian. He didn't believe in God. He wasn't following the God of the Jews. He was just a pagan leader. But we can learn from his mistakes. You've heard me say it too many times. Smart guy learns from his own mistakes. The smarter guy learns from King Ahasuerus' mistakes. Okay? Let's learn from what he did. And remember, our memory verse for next week, Luke 12:48, just the last half, but it's still pretty big. Everyone to whom much was given, of him much will be required, and from him to whom they entrusted much, they will demand the more. All right, so hold on to that. Come back next week with your verse memorized, and we got the good candy. David, you had a question in the back. Which question? Oh, Uncle Ben said it. All right, sorry. Got my Marvel history flaky. If I get this part wrong and I mess up Marvel, I'm okay with that. All right. Yes, Miss Chris. Yes. I am so glad you said that because I skipped a thing that I was supposed to point out. It wasn't the money. Go back to which verse was that? Please the king. The king said to Haman, verse 11. Verse 11, the king said to Haman, the money is given to you, the people also to do with as it seems good to you. The king didn't even take the money for it. He just said, no, you can keep the money, man. I'm not worried about that. If you want to do that, go ahead for it. Good question. I'm glad you brought it up. It was not, because Sam had originally thought, and initially we think 10,000 talents of silver, that's a big chunk of money. Must have been the greed that got him. But he's like, no, I'm just being careless with the lives of millions of people. So.
I wonder if Ahasuerus was not aware of how much Haman truly hated him. I wonder if Haman just sort of stuck that, and that's why he didn't say it in a specific. I wonder if Ahasuerus would have said, forget it, if he says, let's take out the Jews.
I don't know. He is vague about who he's targeting. So it's entirely possible. I mean, we could play the advocate for Ahasuerus and say, well, Ahasuerus must have thought it was only about 1,000 people in the empire. It's still 1,000 deaths. That's still pretty heavy, but it's possible he didn't realize the scope. But either way, he did not exercise the responsibility that he should have. So, it's like, yeah, sure, go ahead, man, whatever. Yeah. No, yes, it's not good emperoring. All right, any other questions before we wrap up tonight? Mike. Yes, he made a decree. He gave his signet ring, so he made a decree. Yes. Oh, yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. All right. Anything else tonight before we close up? All right. Kevin Rayhill, would you close us in prayer, sir?